Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Play, Pause, Rewind, our 109th episode where we talk about movies and TV shows like we always do. Niles, how have you been since our last recording session?
I feel like a chicken with my head cut off, kind of running around lately. I don't know. I feel like it's
Yeah.
been very busy, but there have been good things to celebrate as well. Yeah, we have some babies coming in the family, and we learned the genders the other weekend, so we're very, very happy. Looking forward to those kiddos being born and joining our big old growing family. It's great. Yeah, love that part. Wish I was a little less busy though. how how are
Uh-huh.
you doing, Dylan?
Yeah, busy as well. Lots of exciting things in our
Mm-hmm.
friend group, I guess. Lots going on. Work's been insane. Was doing coverage for a lot of people last week, so I had more work than usual.
Mm-hmm.
But it ha- it is what it is. But we have an exciting episode this
Oh
week.
yeah.
Um, Once again, we are talking about the television show Andor. This year, we are talking about season 2. We have an episode on the first season. It's a great
Yeah.
episode.
It really
Uh,
is.
One of our very political episodes, which this one I'm sure will be as well, due to the nature of this show. But
Mm-hmm.
created by Tony Gilroy and starring Diego Luna, Elizabeth Dulau, Adria Arjona, Stellan Skarsgård, Genevieve O'Reilly, Denise Gao, Kyle Soller, and many, many more. Andor Season 2 follows the continued exploits of Cassian Andor, Mon Mothma, and the other early rebels as they continue their fight against the Empire leading up to the events of Rogue
Mm-hmm.
One and the Star Wars original trilogy. Niles, what are your initial thoughts on Andor Season 2?
Uh so let me say this. I'll say this. If you haven't
Mm-hmm.
seen Andor season 2 or you saw it and you did not enjoy it, it is very likely that you are either a fascist or you support authoritarianism.
Or, or you're
Yeah,
stupid.
or
That's an option
exactly.
too.
Or you don't care about Star Wars, and that's okay too. But like this
Yeah.
season, um, like Dylan said, we've talked about season one, and season one is fantastic.
Uh-huh.
It's such a great season of television. But this is, I think, um, similar quality. Season two is definitely up there. I think it's like just
Mm-hmm.
about the same in terms of quality. It's so excellent. And I think this season, and in fact the whole series, but I feel like this season is definitely important. It's an important season of television for today's
Mm-hmm.
current political climate. And I know I've said that before on other episodes, and I stand by those statements too. But I think this is especially true for Andor because this whole series is about the rise of authoritarianism, the oppressive power of
Mm-hmm.
fascism, just these forms of government that are just honestly the worst, terrible for everybody who is ruled under it.
Uh-huh.
And we are witnessing in many countries across the globe today this
Mm-hmm.
backsliding into authoritarianism, even in the US. I would say,
I'd say especially in the
yes.
US. I'd say
Yes, very much in the US.
mm-hmm.
Carlos! Yeah, but I think it's very potent today because we're seeing all this shit
Uh-huh.
happen. You know, Ukraine, Israel, the U.S., a lot of other countries that I'm forgetting right now are kind of
Mm-hmm.
having this. Yeah, this surge in authoritarianism. And Andor, the show, it
Yes.
shows how fascists, authoritarians, how they oppress, how they manipulate populations, how they control and distort the
Mm-hmm.
media, how they systematically commit genocide and just put themselves up on a pedestal above everybody else. And I think I was thinking about this a lot lately. I feel like a lot of Star Wars fans in general, especially the newer ones, kind of men our age, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, Dylan, younger folks too, have kind of forgotten or blatantly ignored what the Empire is supposed to represent. And this series kind of feels like a bucket of cold
Yeah,
water thrown in your face in the best possible way.
I've always felt uncomfortable when I see people wearing like a T-shirt with the Empire logo on it.
Mm-hmm.
Even like back when we were kids, I'm like, dude, oh, don't do that.
It's like, yeah, you know that they're the bad guys, right? And, like, I think a lot
Yeah.
of people just like they get swept up in like the aesthetics of the Empire. They're like, the TIE fighters, Darth Vader is so
Mhm.
cool, and like the power, they want the power, they think it's so badass, and it's like, yeah, I get that, but also they're space Nazis.
Also, like to what you just said, there is a reason the Nazis wore Hugo Boss clothing. That is what they that it's
Mm-hmm.
marketing. The aesthetic is meant to be appealing because like if you are a person who is like ideologically drawn to fascism, you are probably a sweaty loser who looks like shit. And so they appeal to you with, uniform, neat aesthetics that you can fit into and feel good about yourself
Mm-hmm.
because you are capable of doing that on your own, or you think you're incapable of doing that on your own.
Yeah.
Anybody can make something of themselves character wise, but yeah, I think um, yeah, once again, this show's
Yes.
phenomenal. I think like if this show tonally is not what you most enjoy out of something like Star Wars, I think that's an okay reason to not totally click with
Sure.
it. Just to qualify what you said earlier, but if you are like I don't know offended by this
Mm-hmm.
show, then like you might be.
You.
I don't know.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a bad performance in the bunch here, and all of the characters are so rich and textured
Yes.
across the board. Everyone, even minor characters, there's just so much to them. They go every element of this show. They go the extra mile for. Also, fun fact: the character Clea, who is Luthen's sort of shop attendant and sort of spearheading this whole operation with him, right? Elizabeth Dulau, this is her first role out of drama school,
Wow. Good for her.
and she's incredible. Like everyone in this show is incredible, but like that's so impressive.
Yeah.
Just
She
yeah.
did a great job in that role. Yeah, we'll talk about her
Mm-hmm.
performance later, but yeah, she did. She was phenomenal, and yeah, I totally agree. There's not a single person where I looked at them and said, "That's a bad job." Like they all delivered very well, and even like the Bail Organa recast, I was like, I don't care. I literally don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I guess it may be a spoiler that he's in this, but whatever. He's in it. And it's the time period where he would show up. And like they recast him because of a
Yeah.
scheduling conflict with Jimmy Smits. Um I said this to someone online and I stand by it. In the real world where we're adults, we understand that sometimes things happen and you have to make a decision, and you as an adult person with a fully formed brain should be able to accept a new person playing a
Yep.
character. And I have seen people in the aftermath of this say that they would have rather had like a CGI Jimmy Smits above another actor because the appearance of the character is more important to them as a fan than like the character enduring like naturally. And I think that's really I think one, it's fucked up and it's disrespectful to the
Yes.
performers. And Benjamin Bratt does great work as Bail Organa here. But it's like that is the mindset that gets us into the CGI meat puppets that we always complain about on this
Mm-hmm.
show, right? Like I actively do not want to see that CGI Luke Skywalker ever again. I don't want to see the CGI Leia again. I don't want to see the CGI Tarkin again. I don't want to see that shit. There are human beings who can play all of these
Mm-hmm.
characters. Alden Ehrenreich did a really great job in the Han Solo movie. There is an alternate universe where if we are going to continue getting stories about those characters, we have Alden Ehrenreich playing Han, maybe Billy Lord taking over for her mother and playing Leia, and then someone else playing Luke.
Mm-hmm.
That would be better than what they're doing now. We don't have to linger on much, but it's just like you're holding this story you love back by demanding that everything be the same all the time.
Yes.
It's
Yeah, totally agreed there. But yeah, I would say this series, like we were just saying, it's so rich. It's so layered. There's so
mm-hmm.
many great dynamics between characters here. It's so well balanced too. You're not just focusing on like the good guys or the bad guys. It's very equal, and like all of the characters, side characters too.
Mm-hmm.
Like they all get their own time to shine. Like I was counting in the last like arc, I think in the like I want to
Mm-hmm.
say like there's at least 2 episodes there in the last like 6 bunch where it's just like Cassian's not there at all. It's everybody else doing their own things, and it's
Yeah.
like that is
mm-hmm.
amazing that you can just have that, and like you don't even need to rely on like the actor being in there or the character being in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly so great as a series. It's such a blast. It's really a struggle to find
Mm-hmm.
any issues with it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I just appreciated how nuanced like the depiction of the rebellion is at this stage. It's kind
mm-hmm.
of like you see Mon Mothma like trying to like balance things in the Senate and like still do kind of her covert ops thing, and then you see Luthen doing his own thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see the people on Yavin actually kind of like organizing and getting shit together, but then you also see Saw Gerrera over there just like doing his own thing, being this weirdo, and it's so cool like how diverse it is in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we could talk about this series for hours, days, and there'd still be so much more to discuss, but we only have so much time, so we won't have a day-long podcast for y'all.
Yeah, it'll be a longer one for sure, but we're gonna do our best to be efficient. But one more thing too, like the production design, just like last season, it's fantastic here. Some standout locations for me this go around are the Gorman Plaza, which they built a huge set for, and the Mothma Estate, which we get to see. And like you mentioned earlier on in this section, like the show continues to have extremely overtly anti-fascist political themes that we saw a lot in season 1, and it adds great amounts of specificity into various ways that fascist oppression manifests itself, which makes the show feel like at the same time timeless, because this stuff is inherent to fascism. It's always there, but also extremely relevant to today's politics. We see, themes of immigration, refugee status, genocide, manufacturing consent, and the show does not shy away from any of that. And I still am in shock that Disney allowed them to make this. I genuinely, and kudos, and this comes from Tony Gilroy, the showrunner, or the creator of the show. Kudos to Kathleen Kennedy, apparently, because according to Tony Gilroy, there were a lot of people within Lucasfilm and Disney who did not like what this show was and did not want it to get made. And at every turn, Gilroy said Kennedy had his back. He was like, I went to her, I'm like, all right, I'm going to have the character shoot 2 cops at the very beginning of the show. She's like, all right, you got it.
Dope.
And it's just like great work. It's important that this show got made. It feels like an incredibly mature and refined evolution of what George was doing in the prequels and the political themes he had even as far back as the original trilogy. Because if you remember that, he has that interview with James Cameron where he's talking about empires versus rebels, and George explicitly states that he based the Rebel Alliance in the original trilogy off of the Viet Cong, implying that the Empire was America. The visually Nazi-coded Empire was America. And he talks about how empires never learn the lessons from previous empires because every empire falls. And this show is about, this season specifically is about the cracks in the empire starting to form as the rebellion grows,
Mm-hmm.
and we get to see so many great little details about how, um, I mean, what Leia said in the original movie, right? The more you tighten your grip, the more systems will slip through your fingers.
Mm.
That's kind of what we're seeing here. Um, and last non spoiler thing, and then we can move on. But like season one, this season has uh, 4 3 episode arcs, right? Uh, but this time, each arc is 1 year apart from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was worried going into this season because, or not worried, but the thought was in my brain. It's like the original plan for the show was going to be 5 seasons, and they changed their mind because Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna didn't want to do this for 9 more years.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of concern, including from me, that it might be rushed. I don't think it was, though. I didn't feel that, and I think it actually added a neat distinction in contrast to season one, because each of season one's arcs just kind of flows into the next one pretty seamlessly. Whereas in this one, it feels like we're getting a distinct chapter in each arc that leads up right up to the events of Rogue One, which is where we know Cassian's story ends. But any final non-spoiler thoughts before we?
Yeah, I'd agree. I liked the 1 year difference between each one. It just kind of felt like a good gradual kind of build up, so you could ratchet up the tension gradually of just like, okay, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year out, like now it's just getting real. So I like that approach, and yeah, this is like I only have like maybe 1 or 2 issues with this season, but it's like honestly, this is I'm surprised that Disney made this too. Like they let him get away with it, and I'm so glad that they did, because this is like peak, honestly, peak cinema.
It's some of the best Star Wars that's ever
Definitely
existed, and top of the shelf TV show in general too. It's just incredible all around. It's a must watch show in my opinion. You want to do spoilers?
Yeah, let's get into it. And yeah, the way that we're gonna approach this today, we're probably gonna bounce around a little bit, but overall the structure is gonna be, we're gonna go through arc by arc, talk about each one and specific things that happened there, in each one. So the first arc, we start off with some rebel infighting, the Chandrillian wedding, and refugees on Mina Rao.
Mina Rao. Yeah. And one thing about the arc structure this season and the time jump that I liked, especially watching each arc week to week, I know you sort of binged it more at the end, but every week you get the 1 year later title card that came up, and then the bell. The bell tower barracks in season one was what rings in each new arc. And I just really liked, because we don't go to Ferrix this season, we're done there, but I really liked that sort of tying it back to the culture of our main characters and like their heritage. This tradition rings in each new story. But this first arc, it does a great job of sort of, I think this is one of the like theses of this show in this season, is it's like doing a great job of highlighting the need for the eventual rebel alliance. Not just rebels out there doing stuff, but the full formed, army, the rebellion. Like the group Cassian comes across after stealing the TIE fighter, they immediately fall apart after their leader, I guess, died or got abandoned, and then they start fighting each other. They also killed the guy that Cassian was supposed to meet, who is a fellow rebel. And it's just sort of showcasing the flaw, or at least the limitation, of Luthen's current approach, because probably done out of necessity, because there just aren't the resources to do much more at this point, but it could never be the structure for a full and successful rebellion, because none of the cells know who each other are, they can't trust each other, and like since they're always outgunned, they're probably going to shoot first and ask questions later, so there's no like potential for growth there, right?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting way to kick off the season, and you're so right too. Like if there's like various rebel cells all across the place, it's like, yeah, individually as a rebel or as a little cell, you can do some damage and you can rebel in your own way. But when
Mm-hmm.
you're going up against an organization with infinitely more resources than you, infinite more time, like, yeah, you're kind of outmatched, outgunned, no matter where you splice it. So it's like, yeah, you got to team up, you got to form up, you got to ally yourself with other rebels.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're totally right. This is one of the main theses of the season is just getting everyone together, uniting on a singular vision.
Yeah, and it's like because unless they join forces, it's like all they can really do are like small-ish scale terror
Mm-hmm.
attacks or heists. They can't follow through after that. They're just kind of stuck in that one and done operation. But then we also get early on in this arc the secret Imperial
Oh
meeting.
yeah.
Feels very inspired by the real life Wannsee or Wannsee conference, which was where high ranking officers in Nazi Germany met to concoct and logistically plan out their cooperation across their government for implementing the final solution to the Jewish question. This is also known as the Holocaust, if you didn't
Mm-hmm.
know. Tying it into real world, or not real world, current world politics. The Holocaust was called the final solution because it was the thing they landed on doing for how they wanted to best eliminate the Jews. It was not the first solution they came up with. That was mass deportation. Americans, pay the fuck attention.
Wake up.
We are doing it now. We're doing it now. But yeah, that was this felt very reminiscent of what that conference probably was about. Also, the location being, that mountain fortress seemed to be evocative of Hitler's mountain compound that he had. The scene
Mm-hmm.
also is just very chilling. You get like 1940s style narrated video about Gorman culture, which is like very it's a very fun like 40s
Mm-hmm.
pastiche a little bit, which also feel like parallels with the Nazi Germany tie-in, and then also sets the tone for the scene, and it's great exposition as well because we like Gorman is a huge part of this season, and we get to learn a lot about the Gorman culture and the people there and all that stuff. Um, then we also have the propagandists from it's called the Ministry of Enlightenment. Is that right?
I think so. I don't remember, but yeah, I
Yeah,
think you're correct there. Um, yeah, talking about like the
yeah.
smear campaign against the Gormans, and it's like, it's just so gross. Just all these people
Mm-hmm.
like
And they're so excited
yeah, they're all
about it.
excited about it, and they're like standing there with their little pieces of food and just like eating it, just like it's like, oh, let's talk about how we're gonna like genocide a planet together. It's like they're
Mm-hmm.
so calm about it and excited. It's gross.
Yeah. Well, and it reminds me. Did you ever watch Zone of Interest?
No, I did not. I should have, but
So, so I mean, there's a part in that because it's about the like guy who's running Auschwitz,
mm,
right? It's an incredibly important movie for the current events, what Israel is doing to Palestinians, because very much the Israeli population exist in the zone of interest right
yes.
now. They'll be like, Tel Aviv is so great, it's so nice. There's parties and clubs everywhere, and it's like, don't look over there, don't look over there. That's how they act all the time. It's very chilling. But there's a scene in the zone of interest where someone is visiting him and they're talking about like an innovation in the gas chambers, and they're talking about it just like basically like if they had improved a car engine, like very dry. They don't like in the way that you were mentioning, where it's like they're just so casual about what they're planning to do.
hmm
Um, like they don't talk about it in the horrifying terms that it warrants.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
there's like a scene later in like the series where they're like it's like another ISB meeting, and they're just like
mm-hmm,
Partagaz is just like grilling them all and being like, what's the issue? Like we need to find something to do, or just like we need an issue to solve. And Lonnie Young speaks up and he's like,
mm,
there's too many prisoners. Like there's just too many prisoners. Like
Yeah.
we can't process them all and everything. And they're just like, that is a problem. We need to figure out what to do about that. And then like just in their minds,
Mm-hmm.
they're in that meeting. It's just like they're just numbers. They're just numbers. Like all these
Yeah.
prisoners, it doesn't matter what the individual experience is to them. They're just like, we just need to figure out how to process more, get this done in a very
Mm-hmm.
efficient and calm manner. And that's kind of exactly what's happening in
Yeah.
this secret imperial meeting too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but before we come back to that, like on that scene with Lonnie, because I love that moment because it's a couple of different things. One, the other ISB directors, they're like fucking up, right? They're late on their assignment basically, and Partagaz is just like, what the fuck are you doing? You've had this for 10 days and you haven't gotten
Yeah.
anything. And then Lonnie chimes in, which does two different things. One, it gets him in good graces with some of the other ISB directors, who then the one guy gives him a favor,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe he's like, oh, take me out to lunch. And then I believe over lunch, Lonnie finds out that Bail Organa's entourage is compromised, which is how they know later on to not send Mon Mothma with Bail's people.
Mm-hmm.
So, so he's accomplishing that, but also because he's secretly working for Luthen, he probably doesn't want as many mass arrests. So he is pitching a solution to their problem that also will benefit the people who are not loyal to the Empire, which I think was a really
Yeah.
cool little touch. But on the note of the propagandists, like they're enthusiastically going through. It's like, you just like don't really like the Gorman people that much, right? Like they just feel kind of off. It's like we did that. We have like, spent the last couple years just planting seeds here and there, and this is a great lesson concept of manufacturing consent, which we've talked about on this show before. But essentially, for those of you listening who don't know, the manufacturing consent is basically the idea that a government entity cannot like just go out and gun down a population of people, right? People will get angry and rise up. So what they do is they need to first make you not like that group of people very much.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will start highlighting, anecdotal instances of people within that group doing something bad. They'll over-report crime statistics for that people. They'll say these people's culture is weird. They don't like you. They're invading. They're, whatever. And then so that when they decide, okay, it's time to go shoot the people now, you in your head are like, well, they were invading and they did all those crimes. So I guess it's like, it's not great, but yeah, that's manufacturing consent.
Yep.
It's propaganda, but it's propaganda. The Iraq War, great example of this. Weapons of mass destruction.
Yep.
The Iraqis have weapons of mass destruction. They fucking didn't. The Bush administration knew they didn't, but Bush wanted to invade Iraq. Cheney wanted to invade Iraq, and America had just been attacked at 9/11 by Al Qaeda, made up of Saudi Arabian nationals trained by the CIA in the 70s and 80s, but whatever. So that's manufacturing consent. Generate a lie, support the lie, do the crime.
Yep.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then it also leads into Dedra's plan of basically like honeypotting a group of rebels and then doing a false flag operation.
I mean, it was a smart suggestion. Because a smear campaign alone won't change everything. You need bad actors, whatever, in there to create something to be upset about, to actually like have like a presence and like it's gross. It's gross, but it worked in this show for her.
Yeah. Well, isn't that what Luthen says too? It's like propaganda is not a closing move, it's an opening one, right? So it's like when he meets with Lonnie, he's like, why Gorman? Like, there's got to be more going on here, right? But
yeah, I can't remember that line exactly, but I think you're about right there. But yeah, this first arc also has a lot to do with immigration and refugees.
Mm-hmm.
Our protagonists around Cassian, Bix, Brasso, Willman, and Little B2. You know, they
Poor guy.
yeah they're on like this planet living illegally as refugees without visas, doing some work. And they're just kind of chilling there, and Cassian's doing his little missions for Luthen from time to time and coming
Mm-hmm.
back, but everyone else is just living there, working, and just trying to keep to themselves. And it's this is I'm glad that they included this in the arc because, again, this is relevant to American society, to immigration issues of
Mm-hmm.
today, because these people, like our cast of characters who are living on this planet, they're literally just living their lives and supporting the local community.
Mm-hmm.
They're not harming anybody. They're not doing anything wrong. They're contributing. They're giving back, and they're just minding their own business. And then just because they do not have the proper documentation with the empire,
Mm-hmm.
they are then illegal. They're classified as, like, illegally there. They're persecuted. They're hunted. They need to be
Mm-hmm.
like taken out, basically. But they're
Yep.
critical for the community. Like, these people, like, they're integral now. And it's like, it's this kind of fucked up situation that I think we've talked about it before on this podcast, like immigration in America, like illegal immigration, undocumented immigration. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the pattern is, workers come up from Mexico to um, you know, collect the crops for us out in the fields and actually do all the
Mm-hmm.
farm work that we need for all the food that everyone eats in the country. And then when the season's over, we deport them back down. We say, get out of the country, basically. And it's just a cycle. We
Mm-hmm.
depend on their labor. We depend on immigrant labor in the United States, whether they're documented or undocumented. We depend on this labor.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a fucked up kind of situation where it's like, no, you're like technically not supposed to be here, but we need you. And there's like an interesting moment in Andor where this
Mm-hmm.
terrible lieutenant character, who we'll get to in just a second, he acknowledges this when he's talking with Bix, the fucked up
Mm-hmm.
nature of the situation. I don't remember the exact line, but he's like, yeah, I realize that you guys are here illegally, but we depend on your
Mm-hmm.
labor, so we kind of have to look the other way. But it's also my job to enforce the law. Like, they're aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's it's messy, and it's an important thing for people to realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, before we dive into the lieutenant, just a couple of the side characters here that I really like. I like the main family that they're kind of like working
Yeah.
with. They're like running cover for them and helping them out. Brasso has found a girlfriend, so has Wilmon. They're both like, it's like they're living as good of a life as they're probably able to at this point. I also love that Brasso makes a point to like clear the main farmer from any suspicion when they're getting caught. Remember, he like pretends to be all mad. It's like, you turned us in. How could you do that? And then they kind of nod to each other at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Also, R.I.P. Brasso. What a fucking legend.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Well,
it's
and
sad.
yeah, just like his death is so unceremonious. He
Mm-hmm.
basically gets killed off screen, and then we see like, oh, this is the wreckage, and it's like, I'm glad that they made that decision for this
Mm-hmm.
series, because there are so many people like that who, like, you just don't realize how important they are to a cause or a mission or anything like that, and they
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice their life for it. You'll never know their name. You'll
Yep.
never see their face.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just him being killed unceremoniously really does um, uh, shine a light on that, I think.
Yeah, and you get the like you don't see him die, but you see all the stormtroopers shooting at him, and then that one trooper kind of like squares up a little bit better than the others, and then we don't see anything again until um, Cassian finding his body, which is so sad. But I got Tony Gilroy had a great quote about Brasso, but I can't find it, and I forgot to put it in the notes. Whatever. Um, da, 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 da. Oh, it's like this is a different one, but it's nice. It's like Marva is always with Cassian. Ferrix is also always with Bix, Wilmon, Cassian, and Brasso. It's with them all the time. Marva carries forward as a fundamental piece of who this is about Marva, but about who Cassian becomes. But it's like all of these people, to what you're saying, it's like they're an important part of the revolution and the mission, but you don't know about them because their role didn't involve you, or it was too early on or too small.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the arc does a great job of showing like how fascism is bad, not just on the larger systemic ways, right? Like, being an oppressive empire is obviously bad, but on the smaller, more personal scale. Because, for example, the Imperial Lieutenant in this arc shows us what happens when you give people like that just an ounce of power. They use it to abuse anyone and everyone around them who has less power, which leads to a part of the storyline that has sparked a large amount of conversation and some amount of controversy, and I will say trigger warning for the next 5 minutes, maybe, for sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to listen to that, feel free to skip ahead a little bit. But yeah, the Imperial officer attempts to rape Bix, and they use the word rape in the show, which was surprising and off-putting, intentionally so, I think. And she's forced to defend herself, and she kills him. And good for her. But
I'm very glad that they included this moment, as upsetting as it is, like this whole sequence. And I don't understand why this. I do partially understand why this could be controversial for some people, just because, we've all heard that phrase that, Star Wars is for kids. It's marketed for kids.
Yeah.
But this is Andor. This is kind of like R-rated Star Wars. So if
it's like PG-13, but
yeah.
it's like this is less for kids than the rest of Star Wars.
This is not Clone Wars or Rebels. This is Andor. This is the first episode. He shoots 2 cops in the street. Like we said earlier, like this is a show for adults, I would say. And they needed to include this sequence because this is the reality of war and the reality of fascism. When, just like you were saying, when fascists are empowered, when people like this guy are empowered and have these positions of power, they will impose their will on whoever they want, whenever they want. And sexual violence in wars is well documented. It happens in every war. It happened in World War II by the Nazis. It's incredibly well documented. You can look it up. There's a whole Wikipedia article about how the Nazis sexually abused people in concentration camps, and many other instances. It's like these. The Imperial troopers are literally space Nazis. It's important to show this scene, show the attempted rape, because it's an accurate depiction of history. It's accurate to what has happened in previous wars and what is currently happening in other wars right now across the world.
Like Russia is apparently weaponizing sexual violence against Ukrainians. Israel obviously is like well known for sexual violence. They had pro-rape riots in Israel. They had debates in the Knesset defending the right to rape Palestinians in prison. And this is a show we've talked about before in our season 1 episode. This is a show about the importance of fighting fascism. You cannot showcase the importance of fighting something without being honest about what that something is. And this is part of that. Unfortunately, like, sexual violence is horrific and unacceptable in all contexts. But it is a part of fascism and why it is so evil.
Yeah, I get that. And it's a powerful scene. It's important to share with the world. So thank you, Gilroy, for including this.
Yeah. And another important element of this scene, too, that I saw pointed out is the lieutenant's, like, driver guy, the sort of lower-ranking officer, I suppose. He doesn't react to any of the sound coming from the house until he hears his officer in pain, which indicates that he's used to this. this guy does this all the time, and it's not a problem for this other guy.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. I will say, though, I do agree with the adjacent criticism of this scene in being that a trigger warning at the start of the episode is warranted, I think. People are not necessarily expecting to see a scene like this in their Star Wars programming, and for people who've been victims of sexual violence before, they have a right to know if they should turn the program off before it gets to a triggering moment for them. So I do agree that, in general, trigger warnings are a good thing to do.
Yes.
It's not going to hurt the story. It just protects your viewers. So.
Yeah, I agree. They could have put, just like 5 seconds of text on screen before the episode started. Yeah. That would have been fine.
But onto to lighten the mood a little bit after that. As for, because you expressed confusion at why it's controversial, and as to the nature of the controversy itself, I don't know if this guy started it, but fucking Star Wars theory guy certainly had the funniest response to it, which is that one element of it that he had an issue was that, in his own words, he just doesn't think Darth Vader would stand for that sort of thing.
What? Really? Really?
He said that. Yeah, even all of his fellow anti-woke loser YouTube buddies were like, "Dude, come on! It's the you had the fucking shithead critical drinker being the voice of reason in this clip that was going around. It's like, this guy's never right about anything. This guy's a fucking idiot, and he sounds like the smartest guy in the room in this conversation because Star Wars theory is being so fucking stupid. It's so awesome. And then later, maybe this was a joke because I don't watch this guy. He sucks. But he published a video after all of this discourse titled Anakin Did Nothing Wrong. And I hope it was a joke because nah, man, he did. That's the point of that whole trilogy is let's see what he killed a whole tribe, including the women
and the children.
And then he killed a defenseless man, and then he killed even more children. He killed his wife, probably. And then he became a Nazi. That was bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I don't think he did nothing wrong. I wouldn't go that far.
He did some things wrong for sure. There were a lot of missteps there along the way.
Yeah, you can find our full thoughts on Anakin Skywalker in our prequel rewind from last year.
Please do. It was a fun conversation.
It was.
Yeah, that's such a weird. Let's move on to something else. That's not sexual violence.
I know. I just wanted to detour into that fucking thing because it's so stupid. Okay, just a fun reveal about the Cassian storyline, that he was on Yavin the whole time. I thought that's it's fun, and it's a type of fan service that I appreciate because it kind of it plays with you a little bit. Because when he's first flying in with the TIE fighter, I'm like, oh, it's a jungle planet. I wonder if he's meeting his contact on a proto base at Yavin, and then he lands, and the whole storyline's like, oh no, this probably isn't Yavin. They're just on a jungle planet.
Yeah,
whatever. And then I kind of forgot about that thought, and then he's flying away, and it's like, oh, we see the little pyramids that the Yavin base is. Like, oh, that's fun. It's just a fun little cute reveal.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't paying that much attention to that scene because I don't really remember that. Yeah, but I liked there in this arc we also get into Cyril and Dedra. They're kind of got this weird relationship together. They're kind of living together on Coruscant, which is fun. It was kind of interesting to see their dynamics. And then when his mother comes over for dinner, those exchanges were just really fun, really fascinating. Deidre kind of putting her foot down with his mom, would just be like, no, this is how it's going to go moving forward. I'm setting the pace.
Yeah. Well, remember, I don't know if you remember what we said about their dynamic at the end of season 1, because this is very different than what we thought was going to happen and how we read
Yeah.
where they end up at the end of season 1, because I remember when he saves her at the end, because he's like a bit of an incel creep to her for a lot of the season after they first meet. And I remember saying, like, oh, in a lot of movies or TV shows, like when he like saves her, it would be a moment where they come together like romantically and start to see each other in a different way or something. But in this one, it's like her expression almost seemed like, oh no, it's this fucking guy. Shit. But then they seem to be having this like weird little domestic life together on Coruscant. And
it's the oddest thing. Yeah, I didn't really expect that. And I do have to say, before I forget about it, I could not get over Cyril's fashion this season.
His ties.
It was infuriating to me, that tie. Because like it looks like a tie that you hang up in your closet, like on the hanger. That's exactly what it looked like. It had no knot or anything at the top, so I was just like, it looks unfinished and it looks weird to me. So I just had to say that.
I like a lot of characters had that type of tie in this. I thought
I don't like it. I don't like it. But that's just me.
That's so funny. It's like, it's funny that the other characters are like fighting for their lives out there, right? And then you cut back to basically like a rom-com sitcom premise with the, Cyril and his mom and his new girlfriend, but it also is making a commentary on, if you support the fascist regime, you can have a comfortable life for a little while. Like other people are doing the right thing and they're dying, and you're just eating cakes and going on little weird dates and missions together and stuff like that. So it is kind of a commentary on like, if you sell your soul, you'll be comfortable for a time. Only for a time though, because we'll talk about that later. Because we also have our other big storyline, the Chandrillan wedding. Mon Mothma's daughter is getting married. They get betrothed in the last season, and now we start to see that event play out.
And they were getting betrothed because she needed money, right? That was the thing, I think.
She needed a way to disguise her transactions.
Right, that's what it was.
Because she's funding the rebellion.
Yeah. Okay, because I was kind of forgetting why they got betrothed in the first place. But yeah, the wedding. Honestly, I liked the ceremony itself. Like, it just was kind of cool, like how the symbolism of them stepping into the circles and whatnot. Like, I was like, that's pretty nice. I like that. That's kind of a cool little culture
thing. Steps over the tree branch too.
Yeah, it was like, what? It just felt cool to me. I really liked that. And it's nice to build out the lore of like this people that I've never really heard of before or seen in Star Wars before. So it's just kind of cool of them to kind of enrich that area, I would say.
Yeah. That's one thing this show does and always has done really well is like take time to develop each planet's culture and give them their own customs. We get a lot on Gorman this season alongside Chandrilla, but this also applies just as much to like Ferrix and Aldani last season. And it adds a nice element to the show because everywhere feels so lived in.
Definitely. And just like throughout the whole wedding sequence too, it's like it's very focused on Mon Mothma, but also the side characters too, like her daughter and Luthen, and just all these people kind of like talking to each other and whatnot. It was just really cool, really fascinating to see how it's just like her world just becomes kind of more and more boxed in over time. And right now at this wedding, it's just kind of like, oh God, there's so much at stake. It's all building and just her trying to navigate the tricky social dynamics of this elite society. Just absolutely fascinating. And then she has to make that kind of difficult decision in this episode too, when she's talking to her childhood friend, and he's like I'm about to blow my lid on the whole thing. Like he doesn't know what to do. He feels conflicted, and she's like, okay, I gotta kill him. And that she doesn't like explicitly say it, but it's like you can see the gears turning and all the pieces are kind of moving, and
Yeah.
it's like it's sad. It's very sad.
Yeah. And it seems like she's still not like fully willing to accept that's what's happening, because she has that exchange with Luthen. She's like, I don't know what you mean. And he's like, how nice for you. And he walks away.
Yeah.
But yeah, like take Holma, that's her friend. Yeah, her turning on her, because it's so sad, because in season 1 they were kind of like in this together, and he even says in one of his first scenes in season 1, it's like, oh, my politics might be a little strong for your taste or something,
Mhm.
before they an idea of what she's really doing. And it's he's on board until he starts suffering financially from the cost of what the rebellion is doing. And it's such a familiar thing to see in the real world. You have people who are on board with a social cause or a revolution,
Mhm.
even, until it affects them negatively, and then it's, well, no, no.
How long are you going to be on board for? Until it becomes unprofitable for me.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, I think he's a banker too,
Mhm.
so I guess and maybe like, it's a situation where if it had just been his finances, he would have been a little bit more resolute, but he's like, his marriage is falling apart too, unrelated to that, and it's like, maybe everything just like happened at the wrong time and the wrong way, and he lost his conviction or something like that. But one character in this season, we'll talk about him here because this is his like biggest area of the show, but Perrin, Mon Mothma's
Oh
husband,
yes.
it I like last season just completely wrote him off as a douchebag guy, and he is a douchebag, but it's there's more going on with him than we thought last time. And it starts with the at the end of this arc, when Mon Mothma's like doing shots and dancing. You see him in the background like having fun dancing around, but then he notices her and he just like gets like really concerned.
Mhm.
You can see his expression, whole body language change. And then they're kind of like, seems like they've figured their stuff out a little bit and they have a better understanding overall.
Mhm.
And Tony Gilroy talked about how there was actually a deleted scene after Mon Mothma's speech where it's revealed that she could have trusted Perrin with all of it,
Mhm.
which I think is so interesting. And she didn't, and she never told him. But apparently, he was going to say like, "You could have told me about this," and it like, it hurts that you didn't.
Ooh.
But you could have trusted me the entire
I
time.
I wish
Which
they kept
I
that
don't.
scene in.
Yeah, I don't know where it would have fit is the problem. But it's just an interesting extra element to that character that we thought we knew, but like everyone in this show, there's more to him.
Yeah.
And
Well, and like jumping ahead, like one of the last shots that we
mhm,
have of him was in the final episode, and he's just like in the car with like one of the other high elite women, and she's like passed out drunk, and he's just like kind of
mhm,
accepted that like this is my life now, just drinking and just high elite society, and it's like it's kind of there's a little bit of a depressing angle in there of like, okay, so this is all that there is for you now. Like you could have
mhm.
contributed to something. You didn't really have a ton of chance to do that, but it's like now you're just kind of stuck here in a way forever.
Yeah. Well, I haven't confirmed this because I'm rewatching the show, but I haven't finished the
Mm-hmm.
rewatch yet. Can't confirm if this is true or not, but I have seen it pointed out that that woman is not just any high society woman. That is Skulden's wife. So the
Oh,
mother of his daughter's husband.
okay. All right.
Which implies a lot of interesting things have happened between these characters since we last saw
Yeah.
them.
Something's going on. Wow. Okay. That's
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah. But and then the last thing about arc 1 that I kind of want to talk about is the Mon Mothma's line, everything old is new again. It talks, and we see this a bit in season 1 as well, but there's this element of Mon's daughter, Lita, sort of returning back to traditions and customs of Chandrila that are maybe more antiquated and kind of make both of her parents uncomfortable. And it kind of mirrors what we're seeing right now, at least in America, with the younger side of Gen Z and the Gen Alpha kids are starting to swing more conservative after a pretty long period of time of like the next generation being more progressive than the previous one. It's like it seems like there's a pendulum swing.
Mm.
Wow, pendulum swing happening in the youth right now, which is disheartening. But it's there is sort of a like rebelling against your parents element that I guess would politically go back and forth based on what the beliefs of that parental generation are. And you see a little bit of that with Lita here. Like
Mm-hmm.
none of the older people seem like super on board with this really traditional wedding, but she's all in on it, you know?
Yeah. No, it's a good observation. I like that. Well, let's move on to Arc 2 then.
Yeah.
Gorman espionage. Bix and Cassian are on Coruscant, and Wilman and
Mhm.
Saw are hanging out, doing things together. Yeah, lots
Yep.
happen. Lots of stuff happens in the second arc here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really love the Cyril arc of like baiting the Gorman people, the Gorman front people into reaching out to him and like bringing him into their circle. I think that was really great. Like, there's a lot of cool old school spy genre stuff happening here. Like, you have the hidden message in the spider.
Mm-hmm.
He pulls out like a little ticker tape. You have he ties a string on the door to check if someone's broken into his apartment or not. You have wiretapping,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just God. I like and Cyril, and the actor who plays him, whose name I'm blanking on. Let me get back to it. Kyle Soller plays Cyril so well in this arc because there are so many moments where you're like, I think he buys it. I
Yeah.
think he's like,
Mm-hmm.
I and I don't know, like maybe part of him was buying it, but when he's like talking to his mother, he seems so genuine about how he likes it here and don't listen to the imperial propaganda and all that stuff. And it's like he's saying that because he knows the Gorman front is listening, but also it's like at the end of right before the massacre in Arc 3, he goes to tell the main rebel girl something. Like he realized the operation is different than he thought, and he's going to tell her something. What was he going to tell her? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I like, and it's so interesting. Like, what?
Yeah,
God,
where
he's
was
such
he
a
going
great.
with it? Yeah, for sure.
Uh huh.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
We'll never know. Um,
Nope.
yeah, but I like Gorman overall. This was a very
Mm-hmm.
fascinating people, and it was just cool to see just like Frenchness
Yeah.
in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they made a whole language for the gore based on French or French
Wow,
phonetics
I
or
didn't realize that.
something. Yeah, it's like really impressive. Again, just the extra attention to detail goes a long way, and it feels very much like I think making them French. Obviously, it's sort of ties in with Europe, maybe French Resistance, World War II type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The city pretty Parisian in certain spots as well. Um, I love the culture, like the relationship with the spiders and the fact that they're these like great tailors, but they're also this single export or single product economy.
Mm-hmm.
So the extra element that the senator talks about, it's like, yeah, dude, we import everything. The blockade screwed us like very quickly. I have to play nice with the emperor in like all this extra stuff. Just it makes it feel so authentic.
Yes. Well, and it like the rebel movement, like the insurgents, it just feels like a legitimate grassroots effort too, even if Cyril's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like feeding them in a way and trying and like kind of baiting
Mm-hmm.
them. But it feels
Yep.
like it's building from nothing to something, and like you see that over
Mm-hmm.
time too. Like, um, I think it's in the next arc, but after like they do their like attack or whatever, and then one of them accidentally fires their weapon and kills. Uh,
Cinta.
yeah,
It's
Cinta.
in
Yeah,
this arc. It's
um,
the end of this arc.
the guy who was like the citizen who's just walking up and be like, "What's going on?" He becomes one of the rebels. Like he joins the resistance, and it's
Yep.
like that's so cool. Where it's just like he kind of
Hmm.
contributed in a way to the murder of this person, like the incidental murder, and then he's like, "No, I believe in what we're doing here, what you guys are doing, and I want to join." I
Hmm.
thought that was felt so
Yeah.
authentic and genuine.
Yeah, but it ties back in what we were talking about in part one, where like the need for the organization and
Yes.
the alliance part of the. It's like that guy was already ideologically aligned with all this stuff, right? He was at the town hall meeting. He was the main guy who was speaking the most, but he wasn't part of the operation, and so he accidentally caused a scene. And then that other guy panicked because he wasn't listening to his leader on the operation, and he brought a gun when he wasn't supposed to. Got someone killed. But it also goes back to how each arc feels like a distinct story where stuff has happened in between, because when we come back to Gorman in arc 3, he's part of the movement now. He's integrated into it, and like things have changed, which is just so cool.
Hmm.
There's such a sad element to the Gorban Front rebels because we know the whole time they're just being fed
Yep.
information, being played, right? But they're so earnest, and they're trying to do right, and they fall right into Deidre and Cyril's trap. I like it's so it makes you so mad at
Yeah, I
Cyril because
know.
they're so kind and they trust him so much.
Yeah, and he
Like,
just turns out to be such a slime ball who's like
mm-hmm.
doesn't care about any of them. Unfortunately.
Or does he though? That's the thing. I
Well, I do go back and forth on it, but it's because I think there are moments where he's like, yeah, this totally makes sense. I'm kind of buying into it, but again,
mm-hmm.
he ultimately sells him down the river.
Yeah, okay. I'm a little bit confused. Try to help me understand if you understand it better. What did Cyril think he was doing? He said because they keep talking about outside agitators. Are the Gorman Front the outside agitators? And what did he think he was getting them to do?
This is a very good question that I don't fully know the answer to either. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I wish I did because, like, yeah, I was a
Yeah.
little confused about that too. I think that could have been a little clearer.
Yeah, maybe I'll understand more on my rewatch, but because like when he finds out that they're gonna get like become fish in a barrel, basically, like he is genuinely angry, right?
Yeah.
He's furious that whatever he was helping do is not the real thing. So I don't know. I just want to know like what was so substantially different about what he thought he was doing versus what he was actually doing.
Yeah, I'm not. Clearly, we missed something. But I really part of like the whole Gorman thing too. Like Cassian goes undercover here. He kind of takes on this whole new
Mm-hmm.
identity. I'm blanking on the name right now, but
Varian
Varian
Sky,
Sky, yeah,
fashion designer.
cool ass name, and it was a cool
Mm-hmm.
new kind of different subterfuge angle for Cassian. I don't feel like we normally see him kind of playing this covert ops, just information
Mm-hmm.
gathering role. Like he's not usually the intel guy.
Yeah.
He's usually the getaway driver or the
Mm-hmm.
sharpshooter or something like that. Like he's kind of more involved in the action. And here it's just like, nope, you're just there to
Yeah.
gather intel, evaluate the local insurgency and their leader, and I thought that was just a very cool angle, and he also looked really good. I liked the outfit a lot.
Yeah. It's a cool costume. There's so many parts about this section that I really like. I love the code phrase being "I have friends everywhere."
Yes, so good.
I think that is such a great that needs to be like a poster for this show or something, but it's just such a great like it's a cool thing to say.
It's a great phrase.
And Luthen even says it almost as a threat to Mon Mothma later in the season, and it's surprisingly versatile. And I also love the scene where he's meeting with not Rylance, is that his name? Rylance's daughter, the main tailor. Um,
I, uh, sure. Let's say sure.
yeah, something like that. But he meets with the daughter, right? Or she's because they're inexperienced, right? She comes into the hotel where he's staying and kind of like jumps the gun a little bit, and he's teaching her in this moment. It's like, or you're like, why your friend could have showed up himself, and he's like, maybe I am the friend, or maybe I'm ISB, or maybe I'm someone who's here to sell you
Right.
out. You don't know. And he's like, I'm who you want me to be. Don't worry, but like, be careful.
Yeah. Like.
And
Hmm.
it's it just like speaks to his character that he's like he's giving a lesson here, and then also it speaks to her character and her dad's character because they take the lesson to heart, because the next morning when he goes to the shop, they're like, clearly we have a lot to learn. And oh god, it's so cool.
It's
Great.
really good. And then I like at the end of the mission, Cassian has this exchange with Luthen. And I think it's just a terrific exchange. I think most of their scenes together, all their dialogue is really fantastic. But yeah, Cassian, he's like, doesn't really see the value in Gorman at the time. He doesn't really think that the insurgency is going to go anywhere. They're all walk, no talk. Like they need like another 2 years to develop and then they'll be ready to go or something like that. And, but then Luthen is on the exact opposite side where he's like, no, we need to like, you need to see my perspective and see how powerful an ally like Gorman could be. Especially since it's like, if we get enough allies together, then we can make a real difference here.
Yeah, I think that's true. And then you also have the other element of, I think Cassian is trying to protect them from Luthen, because I think his assessment is accurate and the advice he gives them is good, and like he knows they aren't equipped for what Luthen is going to ask, so he's trying to give them the time to develop. Like what he tells Rylance in the hotel when Rylance says like, I'm not impressed, he was correct. It's like, you can steal the stuff, but you're trying to steal stuff, make it known that you did it, and you're not going anywhere. Like, that's a dangerous plan. And if they were not basically like Cyril and Deidre's project, who was allowed to succeed in this way, they'd be killed. They'd be caught. They were only not caught because they were allowed to think they won. That was the plan, right? And then also you have to remember that Luthen, as described, I think Tony Gilroy described him this way, but even if he didn't, this is what he is. He is what's called an accelerationist.
Yes.
And the accelerationist believes that things need to get like significantly worse at a quicker rate so that people wake up and fight back. And Luthen has always been like this from the jump. After the Aldani heist, Mon Mothma is like being like, the Empire's choking down on everyone because of this. And he's like, yeah, that's good. They'll make people angry. And when Cassian asked him, it's like, what if Gorman, like, I think Luthen is fine with Gorman being just a powerful ally, right? That's good for him. But also when Cassian's like, and what if it blows up? He's like, then it will burn very brightly. It's like an important central world. And if it gets fucked, people will get mad and fight back. And so Luthen is just like okay with either eventuality. And that's the difference between the two of them.
Yeah. It makes me think of that speech or his monologue from the first season where he just like, I'm cursed to use the weapons of my enemy to destroy them. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's like, no, we need to, if they're going to fight.
The tactics of my enemy too.
If they're going to fight and die, it's going to be better for the cause than if they did not fight at all.
Yeah, but I also love the little bellhop character.
Yeah, he's great.
He shows Cassian to his room, and I love that he recognizes him in Arc 3 under a different disguise. Knows who he is and is in, because it's I don't know, that it goes back to Nemec's manifesto from season 1, where it's like they're like small acts of insurrection are happening everywhere across the galaxy. It's like, this is that guy's insurrection.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Well, and he delivered that line that's like poetry too.
Rebellions are built on hope.
And I was like, as soon as he said that, I was like, perfect time to say that line. Now, don't say it again for the rest of the series. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
Love that.
Because Cassian will go on to say that to Jyn Erso.
Yes.
And then she says all the rebels in Rogue One before the Rebel Council.
Yeah, and then I feel like that's got to be... I feel like that was in Episode 8 too, or something like that, but maybe I'm misremembering. Um,
Episode 8 was like the spark that lights the
yeah,
fire. That
I'm getting mixed
what
up maybe.
like that.
Um, Last thing in this arc that I wanted to mention, wanted
Mm-hmm.
to discuss very briefly, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, was just Willman and Saw Gerrera doing their kind of their own thing. This this arc, it's kind of it's very funny in a way because it's like, of course, Saw is a junkie. Of course, how did I not put two and two together when I saw Rogue One? He's a junkie because he has this stupid wheeze the whole
Yeah.
time. He's like sucking on the mask. It's like, of course, he's high all the time.
And he's fucking insane.
He's high, he's insane, and he's an accelerationist like Luthen. And he's hilarious in his own way. But I feel like the dynamic between Willman and Saw is important to the plot because I think Saw, to a degree, he kind of radicalizes Willman even further. And I feel like he kind of sells him 100% on like, this is the renegade approach is what we need for the rebellion. And I feel like that mentality when he comes back to Yavin, he's talking with Cassian, it kind of spills over onto Cassian and kind of infects him on Yavin. And I think that's kind of what gives him a little bit of that spark to fight and be like, no, we need to do something about this. And I'm blanking on all the timing of everything, but I feel like the time that Willman spent with Saw was important to propel Cassian forward.
Yeah, I think so. And another element I love too is that the guy he's supposed to be training ends up being an spy, right? And on rewatch, because I rewatched these episodes last night, you can see, when you know he's a spy, you start to recognize how prying all of his different questions are. Because when he's talking to Willman, when he's teaching him, it's like, you've done this before? And he's like, yeah, a couple times, never alone. And he's like, wow, you're really good at this. Who taught you how to do this? He's trying to get Luthen's information. Empire as well. He's trying to like work everyone. And then he just asks Saw too many questions. I guess.
And then Saw's like, there he is. He's a defector.
Yeah, I love the speaking of Saw because I don't think we talk about him much later on, but I love at the end when they're all on Yavin and they're on the call with him, and Mon Mothma's like, Saw, we know you're on Jeddah. Just like take the intel we have for you. And he's like, you have no idea where I am.
Yeah, he's high as hell, man. That's what I'm saying.
And he's so paranoid.
Yeah,
he's just lost it completely by that
yeah,
point.
he's just like, you don't know. He's so funny. I honestly love Saw Gerrera.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well,
but okay.
Act 3.
Lock in.
Arc 3. Arc 3. We're gonna talk about
Arc 3. We're serious talk again. Arc 3 is where we get the Gorman massacre and the genocide itself. It's an incredibly well done sequence. It's horrifying and heart wrenching. Like the whole episode, it happens. You can like see the gears clicking in motion of this like of the operation, and like the tension and the horror is building until it finally erupts with that sniper shooting the inexperienced rookie soldiers. It's like you plan right. This like really fucked up guy comes in with all these people who have never been on a mission before, and then we're like, we're gonna send out the rookies into the protest. Great idea. They'll handle it. It's gonna be awesome. and then you get this like escalation between Cyril and Daedra to like he's realizing that he has been played.
Yes.
And all the Gormans, like, they know that something's wrong, right? Like, but also, the only reason they're fighting at all is that they've been pushed into a fucking corner. They have nowhere to go. And so they go anyway because it's all they have left. And Tony Gilroy made this point in the press junket at one point. It's like, I'm forgetting the direct quote. I forgot to write it down. But it's like a lot of people think, like, you live in a unique time in history, but the reality is, and like he's like, I'm guilty of it, we're all guilty of it, but the reality is like all of this has happened before, and I'm drawing from all of these different things. Like this genocide is every genocide. It's all of them, but the distress call at the end when Cassian is fleeing and they're calling out. It's like, just anybody listen, please help us. It reminded me of early on in the Gaza genocide when do you remember that press conference when the little kids in Gaza like filmed themselves asking like us
Yes.
in the Western world directly? It's like, please don't let us die. And they were largely met with silence as they've been slaughtered for 19 months. It's truly horrific, and it just really hit. And that's why this show is kind of important in how it portrays all these things, because it's people who have been witnessing these events in real life can now see the events through the eyes of characters that they've empathized with. That sounds so stupid, but I think it's what some people need. Some people need a character they identify with being a victim of something that they consciously know is horrifying, but it's over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just something that doesn't other the situation. It personalizes
Exactly.
it to you, and it makes you sympathetic to it. It's really well executed sequence of events in that episode, and it is horrific, just like you're saying. It's especially terrible. One of the things that was fascinating to me when I was watching it was just how the media coverage is like such a present thing in the episode before, during, and then like kind of like in the final bit of that episode, because they're like intentionally misrepresenting the events. They're trying to report facts, but it's like it's so clearly that it's like these are just imperial lies.
Yeah.
These people on Coruscant, like Cyril's mother watching this, she thinks that the victims are the aggressors, and it's just completely flipped for her and everybody who's watching from light years away. But this is exactly what authoritarians do. They seek to control the media, and when they control it, then they can ply the masses. They can sell genocide in a palpable way, just like we were talking earlier with the manufactured consent. Like this is happening in real time during the massacre.
Yeah, and I mean, just like with like when they blow up a hospital in Gaza or a refugee camp, they're like, there were Hamas headquarters under there. We had to do it. No, we will not show you proof. And every time, it's like every time, and it's like at this point, everyone knows it's fucking bullshit, right? But at the start, a lot of people were buying it. Like CNN was reporting it.
Yeah.
Fucking Jake Tapper and Dana Bash were going on every night, just like parroting this bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's so real and true, and it's not unique necessarily to this iteration of this type of conflict, but what's unique about it for us is we live in the social media age.
Yes.
So we will see what actually happened at 2:00 on like posted by someone who was there, and then the nightly news comes on and says something completely fucking different. But Cyril, his real I'd say his realization, but not redemption. It was moving in a way, in a sad way, to watch this guy realize that the machine he's dedicated his entire life to is just a complete ideological sham. Like he fully believed in the Empire, and in his final moments he realizes, maybe not fully, but he understands that he lived and worked for nothing good. And the tragedy of this character and this type of person more broadly, I think, is that I think he genuinely believed that he was doing the right thing, right? And maybe in a different circumstance, maybe a better parent, or just a different political environment or whatever, maybe it doesn't go this way, right? But also at the same time, these types of guys are sometimes the most dangerous, right? The true believers,
Yes.
because they can be molded into monsters very easily
Oh yeah.
if given the right.
Oh yeah. If like the Imperial, if the Empire didn't really like turn their back on him, be like,
Mm-hmm.
we don't really want you, or as like a trooper or an officer, but you can go work here. If
Mm-hmm.
they like actually accepted him, I think it would have been a whole different story for him. Like I think he would have like fully adopted everything. But yeah, this whole sequence of events with the massacre is
Mm-hmm.
devastating, and Cyril is such a tragic character in a way. Like he's a slimeball. I despise him in a lot of ways
Mm-hmm.
because he basically contributed to genocide. He helped orchestrate it. But he was
Yep.
played. He was used. He was manipulated to orchestrate this genocide, like help do it. But like he's always kind of wanted, ever since season one, I feel like he's wanted this chance to prove himself, to be like part of something
Mm-hmm.
bigger and show that like his worth, his value, to be like, I caught Cassian Andor or something like that. Like I caught the guy who
Mm-hmm.
killed those two guys and I got justice for them. Like I did the right thing, you know. He wants to be recognized, but he's simultaneously so insignificant and incredibly significant. You know, he's incredibly significant
Mm-hmm.
for the genocide, but in every other aspect of his life and everything else that happens in the galaxy, it's like he's small little man. Um, a part of me feels sympathy for him, and a part of me is like, no, you fucking you should have read between the
Yeah.
lines and realized you're fighting for the bad guys.
Well, and also, I mean, if you like, in a way, he's responsible for the demise of the entire empire
True.
because he if he had listened to his fucking boss at his corporate cop job and not chased after Cassian in the first arc of
True.
season 1, he wouldn't have caused that police riot that he did, which is what led Cassian to leave with Luthen and set all these things in motion
Mm,
to where Cassian eventually gets the Death Star plans, which is how the Rebel Alliance survives and
this is
wins
very true.
ultimately.
Cyril was integral to the downfall of the Empire.
All of them are. That's what's so
Yes.
interesting is like every character in their own way here is an essential piece of the broader puzzle of the rebellion. Um, but one thing I love about this scene too is that he gets the wrong in what's happening. He understands it, but it's not enough. It's not enough for him because he just happens to see Cassian there and he sees blood. He sees red. And he's like, I have to finish this mission of mine. Then it's perfect because they have a brutal beatdown fight and Cassian just looks at him like, who are you? And
Hmm.
it's 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 like the final nail in the head on this relationship. It's a parasocial relationship.
Yes.
I I don't even know if Cassian met him
Never.
before.
Never.
Um and this is also the final thought that Cyril will ever have.
Hmm.
Like the Empire, who he dedicated his whole life for nothing, this man that he's obsessed about for years has no idea who he
I
is.
know
And
it's you got it so right there though. It's parasocial because yeah,
mm-hmm.
Cyril's built up like this mythos of Cassian in his head. He's like obsessed over it for so many years, and he's like been like,
Mm-hmm.
this guy kind of like derailed my career. I had to start over. Like all these kinds of things
Yeah.
happen because of Cassian, and so like in his head, he views Cassian as his like adversary,
His nemesis.
long
Yeah.
term nemesis. Yes, and then when he's about to finally get his justice, he realizes that Cassian never viewed him in the same way in any regard. Like it just makes him feel
Yeah.
so small and insignificant, and rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great moment.
Yeah. And it's also perfect that like it's not even Cassian that kills him. It's
Mm-hmm.
Ryland's, someone who's been personally victimized by Cyril. Um And I think the effectiveness of the Gorman massacre as a sequence is one, structurally, we've gotten used to the big climactic loss of each arc happening in the third episode, and the Gorman massacre happens in the second one. So that's effective subversion that catches us off guard a little bit. But also the fact that we got to know all of the Gorman front characters a little bit in arc 2, it gives arc 3 a little bit more weight, because like you don't know them super well, but you know them well enough and you don't want them to die. Like we've seen enough, like Cinta dying and Brasso dying. It's like, don't, no more. Stop taking them.
No, I like these guys. Please stop.
Yeah, and then the Rylance's daughter, I keep forgetting her name, but she gets she gets the fuck out by a K2 robot. Yeah, I guess we also get our introduction to K2SO in this arc.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Cassian. But yeah, also just touch on Bail Organa really quickly. I like him in this show.
Me too.
I think I like the Senate shenanigans with him and Mon Mothma. I like that he says tear the shit out of this place before her speech.
Me too.
I know I said in the sequel Rewind that I didn't like when real world curse words find their way into Star Wars, and I prefer in-universe curse words. For whatever reason, I like them better in this. Maybe it's just a more grounded tone.
Yeah.
But if he had said, like, tear the Bantha Poodoo out of this place, I would have screamed.
Yeah. Yeah, you're totally right. No, I liked Bail Organa in this too. This is my hot take. I think I like this actor's performance as Bail Organa better than Jimmy Smith, but that's just me.
Maybe. I mean, in fairness, he's getting better material than Jimmy Smith has ever.
100%. Yes. 100%. This is the best material for Bail Organa ever.
Yeah. I also like with Bail Organa that Cassian does not like him.
Yes. Yeah.
He finds him fucking annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, since we're kind of talking about the Senate and everything, you want to talk about Mon Mothma's speech, because that is such an incredibly powerful moment. I feel like it's, again, relevant for our political climate, and her speech felt like the Star Wars version of the 1946 First They Came poem, written by that German Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller. You know the one I'm talking about, Dylan. Yes,
I know the poem. Yeah. It's the first they. Is this the
yes,
full poem
that is
right
the poem
here?
right there.
Yeah. First they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
Yes.
Very important.
It's very important because, her speech literally has like a very similar line, very similar structure, and it just builds and builds and builds to where she's like, the monster who will come for us all, who will come for you next is Emperor Palpatine. It's literally just saying, guys, wake up, look, it's the fascist is coming for us.
Yeah, it's going back to the earlier conversation about manufacturing consent and that poem. The unspoken part about this poem is that the author, and I believe this is documented as well, but the author, at least in many of the cases listed, like, wasn't too shaken up about the other groups being taken away because they'd been conditioned to find those people dangerous or irritating. And that is how this works. The fascists invest time and effort into dividing us against each other. Because, like, telling us that everyone who's different is scary or evil, and then they pick us off one by one. Because there are always, and we talked about this in the sequel trilogy Rewind, one line from Rise of Skywalker that I do like is, there are more of us. There are always more of us, and they know that, so they have to separate us because we're stronger together. That's the whole thing. But one other element of this sequence that I like is Bail Organa weaponizing um, political procedures to
Mm-hmm.
give Mon Mothma the ability to speak. It's something that the Republicans are great at doing this for bad reasons. I wish the Democrats would give a shit enough to do this for good reasons, like Bail Organa does. Two things happen in this scene that I wish real life liberal to progressive politicians would do on the Senate floor, which is use the bullshit to your favor to pass good legislation, and two, call a genocide a genocide.
Mm-hmm.
How fucking refreshing was that?
Very, very much so. Well, and it's very important because fascists always need to have an enemy. They always need to have some kind of antagonist to justify their actions, their armed forces, and their means of oppression. It's important because they slowly and systematically eliminate all parties until they kind of bring their vision of what life should be to fruition. But even then, they're not going to stop demonizing people. Like they're always going to paint. They're always going to find someone to paint as the others to distract people from the atrocities that they're committing.
Exactly, because the solutions fascism proposes don't work. They will never make your life better.
Mm-hmm.
So they always have a new person to blame for why your life is still bad.
Yep.
And eventually that person will be you.
Mm-hmm. Only a matter of time. But
only a matter of time.
Do you want to talk about the final arc here, arc 4, where we get some Luthen and Clea work, some flashbacks with them, Deidre losing things, rescuing Clea, and whole lots of other things go on here. Yeah, I love Luthen and Clea. I think they're both such incredible characters. Like they've just got such a unique relationship, and just the way that they like behave themselves throughout the entire series is phenomenal, because they're always just kind of thinking about the end goal, like where are we going, where are we going. Like they're the most focused rebels out of all of them, and this arc starts off with I think Luthen and Clea kind of realizing like, yeah, we need to get the fuck out of here, like we're done basically on Coruscant. And it kind of kicks off with this interaction between Luthen and Dedra in the antiquities shop, and I thought that was such a fun exchange in there, you know.
Well, does he meet with Lonnie before that?
Yes, he does. Yeah, he meets with Lonnie at the park, and Lonnie tells him about the weapon and everything. And yeah, I gotta say, Lonnie Jung, like we said earlier, such a great character, integral to the discovery of the Death Star. Oh, what an unsung hero. Killed on a park bench because he was a liability.
Well, and also not just a liability, but I think in Luthen's own way, I think he's protecting Lonnie's family because based on the situation they know they're in, he's not going to be able to get Lonnie out, right? And what Lonnie did will be discovered. So maybe by Lonnie being killed, like it will cause the Empire to not like throw suspicion in his direction, and his family will be spared. So maybe it was like because Luthen is a complicated character, right? He's willing to kill people for the cause, but I think in this case it was a twisted act of kindness from him as well.
Sure.
I also love the shot of him going down the stairs afterward. That's like a bird's eye view and totally sideways.
Oh yeah, that was a cool shot. But yeah, I really liked the interaction between him and Dedra in the shop, because I think that they both enter that conversation like, yeah, the gig is up, like something's gonna happen here, but they still kind of dance around, do this little do 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 do, like just pretend it's normal for a second, and then they things change, and I just love kind of how they're kind of toying with each other in that sequence.
Luthen has so many great lines in this scene too, like when she's asking about the authenticity of the art, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, only 2 items of questionable integrity are in this gallery, referring to them. And then also when she's like, she thinks she's got him and it's over, and he's like, the rebellion isn't here anymore. It's flown away. There's a whole galaxy of people to disgust you.
So good.
And it's so satisfying because it's like, even though Luthen isn't directly part of it anymore, Like the rebellion is there, it's fully formed, and it is too late for like Dedra's machinations and what she is capable of having an impact on. This is beyond her now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
Yeah,
and it's so.
she was too slow.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, she just like she wants to like relish in the moment too, and then that allows
Mm-hmm.
Luthen to like grievously injure himself, you know. And she's just like
Yep.
fuck,
Mm-hmm.
like everything just goes wrong for her,
Uh huh.
which was
Yeah.
just funny. And then just Clea breaking into the hospital to kill Luthen on that kind of
Mm-hmm.
covert mission that she gave herself. It's like that was so fun. I love that entire sequence. Like if they wanted to make like another spin-off show with like Clea doing espionage shit, I'm on
Mm-hmm.
board. I love her. She's so great.
Yeah. Yeah, I that sequence was so satisfying, and the fact that it's not a rescue mission for Luthen. It is a rescue mission for the Rebel Alliance though, because I mean they will find a way to get the information out of Luthen one way or another,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like she has to make sure he
Yeah.
dies. And I also love the origin they chose for these two characters, because Clea was a kid and a victim of Imperial violence carried out by Luthen and his squad when he was a younger man, and I guess he just decides to atone for it, and the entire rebellion is just it's for Clea.
Mm.
It's to make up what he did to her.
Mm.
All the like their first terrorist attack together. That's on Naboo.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that, but and he apparently chose it because that's Palpatine's home world.
Love that.
Mm-hmm. But the other thing too, it's like we in the flashbacks we get to see they don't act on everything because they're not ready yet. They don't have the resources to do that. And what is it? Is it the line or just the sentiment that it's like sometimes the only act of rebellion you can do is to not look away.
Mm.
I don't know if that's mentioned in the show, but it's like no, you like if you can't prevent it, you need to see it so that it makes you angry.
Yeah.
So that when you can prevent it next time, you know why it has to be prevented.
Very true.
One thing I also love from this arc is just I love the loyalty and respect that Cassian and his crew specifically have for Luthen and how it puts them into conflict with the other leaders at Yavin because they are like Luthen's methods, I guess, are not approved of by the Yavin Council and all that, but Cassian and Wilmon and all of them are right. It's like without what Luthen and Clea have been doing for years, like none of this would have had the opportunity to exist. And I guess that's the difficult politics of revolution is the earlier on you are in that revolution, the less clean you can afford to be.
Mm.
And so the figures who come in later on may look down upon you for what you did before, but they would, and then like after these guys, like, and then compare how we felt about the like General Draven character in Rogue One when we saw that for the first time, because he pulls Cassian aside. It's like, if you get the chance to kill Galen Erso, just kill him. We can't afford this secret getting out. And that was the edgy character then, because we were used to Luke Skywalker. And now General Draven is like the more reserved version when we're comparing him to like Luthen and Saw Gerrera.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Yeah, right. Yeah, and I also really like that rescue mission. Yeah, like when they all kind of get together and they're like, we got to go save Luthen, but it's actually Clea, Cassian and Melshi and K2 get to go together, and yeah, I thought that was a really really cool arc. Very tense for sure as we were going through it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I love the like sort of breakout from the apartment complex. I love that it's the same safe house that we've seen in early arcs. Like we're going back to a place we haven't seen in a long time. Cassian hasn't seen it for a long time. I'm also glad that K2SO was kept just to this arc, honestly. I like the character. It's fun to see him again, but the original concept for a Cassian Andor prequel was apparently like the adventures of Cassian and K2, and they were just like going around doing stuff for a couple seasons. And then when Tony Gilroy came on, it's like, no, this is so limiting because at the end of the day, like you can't do a lot with K2 because Cassian's a rebel and he's an Imperial droid, so he's just gonna have to sit on the ship a lot. We're gonna do something else,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the show came into
I
being,
agree.
from what I
I
understand.
I liked how they used K2 in this as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing that I'm a little on the fence on about this season, and it is in this final arc, and it's about Bix in the story,
Mm-hmm.
specifically her
Okay.
departure from the story and her ending. Um, Personally, I think I would have liked to see her stick around and engage in more missions, like for all that they said in like
Okay.
those episodes where she's recovering in the safe house. Like Luthen comes and sees her, and he's like, "We need you back at the game, Bix. Like we need you." And
Mm-hmm.
then when she's ready to come back, she has this good moment of badassery where she gets revenge on Dr. Gorst.
Dr.
Gets to
Gorst, yeah, fuck.
gets to fucking get some good revenge on him. I really liked that. But then
Mm-hmm.
immediately after that, she just takes a back seat and just sticks around on Yavin until she decides she needs to leave so
Mm-hmm.
that Cassian stays in the fight. And like, I
Yeah.
understand that she was kind of she saw what the Force healer said about Cassian, like, oh, he's very
Mm-hmm.
important. Something's going on. Like he has a very important role to play. So she's like, you need to stay in the rebellion. Like you need to stay in this fight,
Yeah.
basically. But like
Mm-hmm.
she's awesome. I love Vix. She's just an awesome character. I really like the actor too. So I'm like, I kind of would have liked to see her do a little bit more in the final part of the season,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also happy with the ending that we got, knowing that she is alive with their baby together and they're just
Mm-hmm.
vibing somewhere.
Well, they're back on Mina
Right,
Rao
right. Yeah.
with B2. B2. I also one thing about Mina Rao and B2 actually that I love in Act 1 or Arc 1 when they're like packing everything up and they're like, "Oh, B2's going to panic when he sees you doing that brass." It's like, "Oh, he's out with so and so and his little friend. His
Mm-hmm.
little droid friend, buddy," which I think is so
I'm
cute.
so happy about that.
I know, but yeah, I see. I agree and disagree. I agree in Act 3. I wish he'd had a little bit more to do. I do love that they built themselves like this awesome house on the Yavin base, though,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. They built like a home together, which is something she wanted to do in the previous arc when they were in the Coruscant safe
Right.
house, and they never got the chance to do, and they kind of get to do that at Yavin. Yeah, I wish she was a little bit more involved in that one. Maybe I don't know in what capacity would have been
Yeah.
best, but I also I think her leaving works really well and is a great sacrifice
Yeah.
on her part because she understands that if she doesn't leave, Cassian is going to leave, and he's essential for the
Yes.
rebellion. She also would know she's pregnant probably because the baby is born after the next arc a year later.
Yeah. So I'm fine with it ultimately. Just
Yeah.
one small thing if I had to nitpick. But I
Mm-hmm.
am very happy about Deidre's fate in this series. She ends the series in prison on Narkina 5.
Yeah. I Tony Gilroy, when speaking about the endings for our more villainous characters, said that fascism doesn't just and we alluded to this earlier, so this is a circling back to our earlier. Fascism doesn't just take down the oppressed. It doesn't just come for the people it's trying to control. It inevitably destroys the people who have worked the hardest to build it.
Mm-hmm.
And that Daedra, obviously, Cyril, um, Partagaz, even, and not in this show, but in Rogue One, Krennic.
Krennic.
He takes a direct hit from the Death Star
Yeah.
and dies.
This thing he worked so hard to build.
Yeah, but her ending up on Nakina 5 from season 1 is such a perfect ending for this character's journey. Like, she flew too close to the sun. She thought she was important enough to the Empire to be allowed to bend the rules, and then she's locked up forever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like this extra catharsis because we've been here before. We know what this place is. and it's so satisfying to see her have to begin her suffering here.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's a better ending than her ending up stationed on the Death Star, which was what a lot of people's theory was for where she'd end the season. I think that would have been good too. Like that fucking, was it Remember Me? It's like a romance movie with Robert Pattinson, and then at the end of the movie, he's just like in an office building, and then the camera pulls out to reveal that he's in one of the Twin Towers.
Oh no, that's not good.
It's like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that this is more of a fitting ending for her. There's a small part of me that feels a little sympathy for her just because we learned a little bit more about her upbringing this season. Yeah. She grew up in an imperial kindergarten, so all she's ever known,
Kinderblock,
excuse me, all she's ever known is the Empire.
Uh-huh.
She's fought for the Empire her whole life. The Empire taught her, it raised her. Like, she's never done anything else, and then she ends up being a prisoner of the Empire.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she entirely deserves to rot in jail for the rest of her life because of what she's done to the Gorman people and every other shitty thing that she did throughout the series. So, fuck her.
She tortured Bix with Dr. Gorst. She did the Ferrex occupation and Gorman genocide.
Yeah. And then, Partagaz, like, he had an interesting ending because we hear him listening to Nemec's manifesto there at the end, and he's just like, it's spreading like wildfire, we can't stop it, and it's like, that's kind of vindicating of just like, yes, Nemec, he survived, his word survived in a way. And then Partagaz ends up taking his own life there in that room. Brutal.
Yeah, I got so giddy when I heard Nemec's voice saying that manifesto again, because that manifesto is fucking amazing, an excellent piece of writing, and it's just having it. I wasn't expecting to hear it again.
Me too.
And then the implication being that Cassian, because he's the one who had it, he released it like on widely to the galaxy, which is great. And Partagaz. Partagaz is such an interesting character. He's such a great Imperial.
Yes.
Anton Lesser is the actor's name, I believe, right? He's amazing in this.
So good.
And I love the way he delivers all of his lines. I love when that one ISB guy is like, "It's an honor, sir." He's like, "Honor? It's an assignment. Calibrate your enthusiasm."
Yeah.
That is something I want to say to people.
Yeah, he's got some great lines.
Yeah, but he's all business, all,
all the time.
Got shit together until he has to have a meeting with the Emperor about his failure.
Rough.
But yep, they all get the fates they deserve.
Yes.
And I do love to, on the flip side of things, Clea gets to live. Val lives as well, which is great. Clea, who didn't really see her value in relation to the rebellion, like the Yavin rebellion, right? And they don't really value what she and Luthen have been doing, but she makes it there. And then when she wakes up the next morning, it's like she finally gets to see the thing they built together.
Yeah,
right.
I love that.
The culmination of a lifetime of effort, and I don't know, it's just so great. But some closing general thoughts. The show, overall, is about people who, as Luthen said in season 1, are fighting for a sunrise they know they'll never see. Not every main character is dead by the end of the show, which was a genuinely nice surprise, because I assumed everyone who, every cast member in this show who didn't make it to Rogue One was going to die, and every remaining cast would die in Rogue One. But these are the people necessary for revolution to survive long enough to thrive, right? They're the torchbearers who don't see the end, but they have to carry the fire. just long enough for the next person to pick it up. And that is, we talked about it before, but that's something that I've appreciated about Andor, Rogue One, even though I like it less than this, and even Rebels to a degree. It's like it's recontextualized the rebellion as just like a massive fucking effort by people in all corners of the galaxy that survived just long enough for like Luke and the gang to join up and bring it home for the final stretch, right? Like, that's so impactful.
It's wonderful. It's such a profound, resonating message.
Yeah. And then I think I said this on our episode on season 1, but I'll say it again and reiterate exactly what I mean by this, and you can add to this as well. But like, this is what I want from Star Wars in general. Not this tone and style of story necessarily, although this is fantastic, but this creative approach. The more Star Wars media that we've seen in the last couple years and reviewed, and with the upcoming like Mandalorian and Grogu thing, I'm getting sick of that approach. It feels smaller and smaller and smaller and more insular. They're not taking as much care with the craft. Take a page out of this show's book. Build the huge sets. Add that depth to the worlds and the characters in the stories.
Yeah.
Expand to a new time period a little bit. It's time.
Yeah.
We can leave like the Mandalorian and Ahsoka Tano behind. We love them. We've had great stories with them, but it's time, man.
It would be cool to see, like, if they could somehow merge like Visions with like this creative approach to Andor, because like, if we could get like a whole season-long arc of like one of those miniature stories from Visions, like that'd be pretty great.
Actually, I believe this is confirmed. I don't know if you remember, but back in season 1 of Visions, when we reviewed that, one of the ones we really liked, the Ninth Jedi.
Yes,
we were like, oh, it feels like a great jumping off point for a larger story. Apparently, it's happening.
Sweet.
Apparently, they're making it.
Sweet. That one was awesome.
Yeah. So yes, I would love that, but I would love like, I don't know, you can do so much with Star Wars. Like, I used to think Star Wars was a somewhat limited universe. I don't think that anymore. This show proved me wrong. You can do so much with it. But just, stretch your muscles a little bit.
Yes.
Think outside the box. This is, like, so in the spirit of what Star Wars is, what the original inception of Lucas's Star Wars is, but it's completely different than...
Definitely.
But it has a lot of the same themes. Any final thoughts?
No, I don't think so.
All right, let's transition into some other stuff for a couple minutes. Niles, what have you been watching, reading, playing, etc.?
I've been pretty boring lately. I haven't watched a ton of new stuff besides Andor. But we've been continuing to watch Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown. That is always such a fun show. If you're ever looking for like travel inspiration or just want to learn about other cultures, like this is the show for you. Like we just watched like an episode the other day on like, I might have mentioned it before, but Antarctica, and just like all the shit that goes into Antarctica supplying that place, and the seasonality of it is very fascinating. So it's a good way to learn about other parts of the world that you don't know a lot about. So definitely recommend it. Like we watched one the other day that was just like Montana, and like learned a lot about Montana, and it's beautiful. I want to visit someday. And the only other new thing is I've been reading this book called Dragon Seed by Pearl S. Buck. Just started. It's about the last empress in China while China's in wartime, basically. That's really interesting so far. I'm liking it. It's like kind of like not feudal China, kind of coming of age China in a way, but like they're still like
Mm-hmm.
rice farmers. Like the main characters are rice farmers, and they live in a very like
Okay.
rural area, no electricity or anything like that, and like just how it's going on with them. So it's it's a pretty
Hmm.
cool story so far. I'm liking it. Um, what
Nice.
about you? What have you been up to?
I've been playing a little bit of the game Enshrouded. It's one of those newer survival crafting games. I think it has like a little bit more story going on. Great art style, cool exploration. There's this element of like risk reward because there's the shroud. Certain areas where like if you're in it too long, you get like negative effects or whatever. But you can craft things that allow you to stay in it longer, and they're better, it's better like loot and
Mm-hmm.
items and stuff. um, and then I also read more Saga. I have read volumes 5 through 10 now, so I'm over halfway through what will eventually be the complete story, and I'm almost caught up to where the comic is
Wow.
now. So I'm gonna take a hiatus from it for a little bit while they write more. God, Saga is so good. It's devastating and funny, and the art is it's it's one of my favorite comics I've ever read at this point for sure. Um, and also, I continued on and finished the first season of The Pit. Fantastic television. God, it's devastating.
Yeah, it looks pretty intense.
hmm Yeah, and it's like the first 2/3 of the season are stressful ER stuff, and then it gets so much worse.
God. Okay. I don't know if I can
But
handle
it's
that.
no, dude, you gotta watch it. It's incredible. Um, so well
Okay.
done. And then also, I'm reading a book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. It's, I guess, a New York Times writer. It's nonfiction, and the premise so far seems to be that like, um, it's looking at things in terms of how they're an epidemic,
Mm.
looking at, like fashion trends and disease and also other things where it's like all of the various factors that contribute to a rise in something suddenly like boil over into a tipping point. And like the example in the start he used was fuck, what is the shoe? I'm forgetting the specific shoe. But basically it was like an out of fashion shoe, and then a couple like 100 people in New York started wearing it as like a hipster thing, and then like a fashion designer saw it and wanted to put it in their collection, and then it blew up and became like the trend after that.
Sure. Okay.
So I'm very early on. I'm curious what the ultimate thesis is, but I think the point is like, let's examine how this happens so that we can integrate it into like the way we think about things and how we can like push towards good tipping points in our own like culture and lives. So curious how it's gonna
Yeah, that
play
sounds
out.
interesting.
I haven't read like a straight nonfiction, non-narrative book in a very long time.
Right. Yeah. I neither have I. I think the last one I read was in school.
Yeah. All right, but that is going to do it for us this week. Big, beefy
Yeah.
episode.
Thank you for
We'll be
listening
back.
to the thing. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Uh huh. Yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks. I think for Mission Impossible, the final reckoning.
Ooh,
I'm excited to see that.
the final reckoning. I
And
guess
then
it'll be fun.
shit.
It'll be fun to discuss. Yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed listening to us talk about Andor, and we hope you like the series too. And if you like this stuff, please let us know. Like, share, subscribe, share it with a friend. Anyone who likes talking about movies or TV, tell them about our podcast. We'd love to share our ideas with them.
Yeah. Where can people find you online, Niles?
On Instagram at Niles Got No Styles. What about you, Dylan? Where can people follow you online?
On Instagram at DylanD1026, on Twitter at D-Day Movies, on YouTube at D-Day Movies, and you can find both of us here at Play Pause Rewind, both on your podcast platform of choice and on YouTube. We also have our second YouTube channel, Play Pause Rewind Videos, and our latest episode of Rewind, our spin-off show on the Star Wars sequel trilogy, is on that channel. That'll be linked in the description, along with our episode on Andor Season 1. I'll link the YouTube version of that there. That was a great episode as well. I really enjoyed that conversation from years ago now. But yeah, see you guys next time. Until then, stay safe. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.